A top 5 global bio powerhouse by 2030 is South Korea's goal as President Lee Jae-myung meets with biotech companies and pledges an open approach toward regulatory reform in the sector. In the U.S. state of Georgia, an ICE raid targeted a mega plant run by Hyundai Motor Group. Hundreds of workers were detained, some of them South Korean nationals. The Foreign Ministry says it's working with the U.S. government to work things out. It's been 2 days now since the Lisbon tram crash, but we're still learning more. 2 South Korean nationals are among the 16 victims who lost their lives. As President Lee Jae-myung offers his condolences, we have the latest. We begin our coverage with Korea's vision to become a top 5 global leader in the bio industry by 2030. President Lee Jae-myung says he will take an open approach toward regulatory reform in the bio sector. He was at a discussion table today in Incheon, setting a goal to double Korea's bio exports within 5 years. Our presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
The bio industry is key to Korea's future growth engines, and the government is open to cutting red tape. That was a message emphasized by President Lee Jae-myung on Friday when speaking at an open roundtable in the city of Incheon, where a bio-specialized complex is located.
바이오 산업 자체가 자율적으로 또 창의적으로 공정하게 일할 수 있는 환경을 만들어 주는 것이라고 생각합니다. 세계에서 대한민국을 대표해서 경쟁할 때 뒤에서 든든하게 받쳐주는 지원이 중요하지 않을까 그렇게 생각합니다.
With biotechnology picked as one of the administration's 5 next-generation growth engines, Lee noted the need to expedite R&D certification procedures and ensure a fair system where no monopolies are allowed. A goal was set to double bio exports by 2030 and make Korea one of the world's top 5 biotech powerhouses, for which a policy vision was laid out.
We will improve regulations so that people in the field can actually feel a difference. Second, we will accelerate growth by linking technology, manpower, and capital. Lastly, we will strengthen global competitiveness through corporate growth.
For instance, the authorities vowed to preemptively create a roadmap for new drugs designed by AI and shorten the review period for biosimilar products to less than a year. This used to take more than a year. Present at the roundtable, which was broadcast live in full, were more than 100 people from the bio sector, including Samsung Biologics.
In Korea, there's only one market operator, and it performs corporate reviews, IPO reviews, and market monitoring, creating a systemic limit. I suggest that the market monitoring system be separated as an independent organization.
이번 검토를 한번 해봐야 될 좋은 지적 같습니다. 시장을 좀 다양화하고 감시 기능을 좀 떼내서.
Also suggested were calls for more funding for companies entering costly clinical trials, faster drug approval reviews, and ensuring long-term research stability. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now over in the U.S., federal authorities conducted a major raid at a Hyundai Motor Group facility in Georgia on Thursday local time, with reports indicating that several Korean nationals were also detained. For more, we go live to our reporter Moon Hye-ryun. Hye-ryun, what can you tell us about this operation and its target?
That's right, Toyon. So U.S. immigration and law enforcement agencies converged on a construction site for a new electric vehicle battery plant that's part of the sprawling complex where Hyundai manufactures electric vehicles. This massive project is a joint venture between South Korea's Hyundai Motor Group and LG Energy Solution and is one of the state's largest investments. According to ATF Atlanta, which is the Atlanta division responsible for enforcing federal criminal law in the United States, around 450 were detained in total. Dozens of Koreans are believed to have been taken into custody. While the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has not yet confirmed the exact number or their visa status, it is thought that they were in the U.S. on short-term business visas. ATF Atlanta shared images on social media of the raid, emphasizing their commitment to community safety. For a major Korean investment, this is a significant and unexpected disruption.
Right, and what has been the response from the South Korean government so far?
So the ministry held a briefing on Friday afternoon where it expressed regret over the situation and vowed to take active measures. Take a listen to what the spokesperson said.
The economic activities of our companies investing in the U.S. and the rights and interests of our citizens must not be unfairly violated during the U.S. law enforcement process.
A government official told the press following the briefing that the detainees are currently being held at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility, and the ministry was still in the process of confirming whether there is an issue with their visas. In response to this turn of events, they are dispatching consuls from the Korean Embassy in Washington and the Korean Consulate General in Atlanta to the site to form an on-site response team centered at the local consulate. A request was also sent to the U.S. Embassy in Korea that special care be taken not to infringe on the rights and interests of South Korean citizens. And that's all I have for now, so back to you, Toyan.
All right, thank you for the report. Now in Beijing, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping held talks last night, reaffirming friendship and discussing a variety of issues. Our Kim Bo-kyung has more.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping's meeting signaled the restoration of close ties that had grown distant due to the recent North Korea-Russia rapprochement. The two met at the Great Hall of the People on Thursday, marking the first such meeting since 2019, with Kim visiting China in January of that year, while Xi visited Pyongyang in June. During the meeting, the two leaders shared the pleasure of seeing each other yet again and agreed to work together to safeguard their common interests as part of what was described as a community of shared destiny.
In the face of a turbulent international landscape, China stands ready to strengthen strategic communication, enhance exchanges and cooperation, and deepen exchanges of experience in governance with the DPRK, so as to effectively advance our respective socialist cause and jointly promote regional peace, stability, development, and prosperity.
The past 6 years have seen earth-shaking changes and development in China, which impressed me greatly. What touched me even more is the unwavering and profound friendship between our two peoples. Despite the ever-changing world, this friendship will never change.
While touting the development Beijing achieved, Kim stressed the regime's readiness to deepen economic and trade cooperation to achieve greater results. When it comes to the tension on the Korean peninsula, Kim did mention how he appreciated China's, quote, fair stance regarding the issues, to which Xi responded that China will continue to strengthen coordination with the North to safeguard peace and stability in the region. However, the joint statement released by China after the meeting did not include any mention of the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Kim arrived at Beijing Station at 9:50 p.m., departing on his special train 50 minutes later. He is expected to arrive in Pyongyang on Friday afternoon if he heads straight back. His fifth visit to China was his longest one on record, lasting 4 days and 5 nights. His stay in Beijing was also his longest at around 54 hours. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-shik is back here in Seoul from Beijing, having attended China's Victory Day parade on behalf of the South Korean government. Our political correspondent Shin Ah-young reports.
After attending China's Victory Day ceremony as South Korea's representative, National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-shik returned home on Friday, saying there had been progress in strengthening Korea-China cooperation and even some unexpected gains for peace on the Korean peninsula.
It seems there was some progress in improving Korea-China cooperation, which was our original goal, and I think this could open up a new opportunity. I believe there was some unexpected progress for peace on the Korean peninsula.
Regarding his encounter with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Wednesday, Speaker Woo said that just being able to meet and shake hands was already an achievement, adding that many had thought the chances of meeting Kim before his trip to Beijing were very low. This echoes what he said at a press conference in China the day before.
It was hard to have a full discussion, which I find a bit regrettable. But given the current state of inter-Korean relations, I think even a brief meeting was still meaningful.
Woo left for Beijing on Tuesday evening to attend the military parade, and the next day he was seen shaking hands with the North Korean leader. According to the National Assembly Speaker's office, Woo told Russian President Vladimir Putin, who also attended the event, that he hopes the South and North will usher in an era of peace and prosperity and work toward building peace on the Korean peninsula. He also mentioned that South Korea is hosting next year's UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting and asked Putin to convey to Kim his hope to visit North Korea's Mount Kumgang, recently named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. 신하영, 아리랑 뉴스.
President Lee Jae-myung will host the leaders of the two major parties, Chung Cheong-nae of the Democratic Party, newly elected People Power Party Chairman Chang Dong-hyuk, for a luncheon next Monday. This will be the first meeting between the president and Chairman Chang, who was elected just last week. Following the main event, the two are scheduled to hold a separate one-on-one meeting to discuss key issues without a specific agenda. The presidential office hopes the gathering will open a new chapter in strengthening dialogue between the government and the opposition. In Portugal, two South Korean nationals are among the 16 victims who lost their lives in a crash of a popular funicular railway car in the capital city, Lisbon. Our Cha Yoon-kyung has the latest.
In the tragic crash of the historic Gloria funicular, 16 people were killed and more than 20 others injured. On Wednesday, around 6:15 p.m. local time, Lisbon's 140-year-old funicular train, which is popular with tourists, derailed and crashed into a building. Portuguese President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa and Prime Minister Luis Montenegro visited the site of the funicular accident on Thursday evening for a mass in honor of the 16 victims of the crash. Prime Minister Montenegro called the crash, quote-unquote, one of the biggest human tragedies in the country's recent history, and President Rebelo de Sousa told the journalists that it was a time to mourn the deceased and to console their family members.
Today is a national day of mourning. It's mourning for Lisbon, but also for Portugal. In this hour of mourning, we are waiting for a time when, first and foremost, we must mourn the dead, respect the dead. Believers pray for the dead. Non-believers think of the dead.
The yellow funicular that carried many tourists up and down a steep hillside in Lisbon was left overturned on the cobblestone street. Of the 16 victims, the coroner has so far identified the bodies of 5 Portuguese, 2 South Koreans, and 1 Swiss national.
5 Portuguese citizens have been fully identified through scientific methods. 2 South Korean citizens. We have had close collaboration with the South Korean embassy from the outset, and 1 identified Swiss victim identified through Interpol.
According to Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Friday, the 2 Koreans are a man and a woman, and there was another injured Korean woman in the accident who is currently undergoing treatment in the intensive care unit of a local hospital after surgery. Meanwhile, President Lee Jae-myung on Friday extended condolences to the families of the victims of the deadly crash. He posted a message on Facebook saying, quote-unquote, "I offer my deepest condolences to the bereaved families and the people of Portugal, who must be in profound sorrow and shock, and I wish a swift recovery for the injured." He said the Korean embassy in Portugal formed a task force immediately after the accident, and the ambassador also checked the situation at the site of the accident. He added that the government will convey condolences to the Portuguese Prime Minister and request special support for Korean nationals. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, the recent animated movie, K-pop Demon Hunters, has been sweeping the hearts of many viewers. But how can those with visual impairments also enjoy the movie? An Sung-jin tells us how the efforts of transitioning nonverbal elements of content to verbal components can help.
각과 곳곳 차림의 진호가 굳은 얼굴로 서 있다. 호랑이가 진호의 팔에 얼굴을 비빈다.
This is a scene from the renowned Netflix film K-pop Demon Hunters. The Korean Community Media Foundation provided a screening of this popular movie with attached audio descriptions.
One of our major goals is to create no discrimination between disabled and non-disabled audiences in media. So we work on screening accessible movies.
For most of us, watching a movie means sitting back and soaking in the visuals. But we might be taking this for granted. Veteran Seo Soo-yeon redefines how stories are told and experienced. She started the Korea Content Accessibility Research Center, and for 23 years, she's been working on expressing nonverbal elements of content into spoken aspects.
To be honest, this was all very unfamiliar to me because no one had done it before. I had never thought that people with visual impairments couldn't watch TV. But I realized there are movements, actions, and nuances that they miss entirely.
Her work involves adding descriptions of subtle expressions and action sequences in between the spoken lines, creating a fuller cinematic experience for the visually impaired.
시점을 빈 그릇에서 가게 사장에게로 옮겨간다. 사장을 꼬챙이하고는 못 끼는 거였다.
For Seo, effective audio descriptions aren't about matching visuals word for word, but rather producing context, clarity, and flow. But what she says what's often more important, yet neglected, is the language used that creates further division.
There shouldn't be hard lines drawn between people with and without disabilities, because anyone can become visually impaired. So we often frame accessibility as something only for people with disabilities, but it really starts with understanding others.
The push for accessible content is gaining ground, but there's still a long way to go. With efforts from people like Seo, moments that can be lost in darkness can enhance a powerful scene for everyone. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In Seoul, the sounds of a ritual that once echoed during the Joseon Dynasty and the Korean Empire are alive once again, recalling prayers for the nation's stability and the people's well-being. Our Park Hyo-bin reports.
Sounds and moves from a century ago are once again coming to life. This is the Sajik Daeje, the music and dance that accompanied the royal ritual, the Sajik Daeje dedicated to gods of land and grain, praying for abundant harvest and the well-being of the people from the Joseon Dynasty to the Korean Empire. This week, the National Kugak Center staged the Sajik Daeje to honor the ritual's cultural value, which was recognized as a national heritage.
The Sajik Daeje was a powerful symbol of statehood. The music performed during the rite embodied the highest artistic and philosophical ideals of the time, carefully managed by the state itself.
This performance recreated the version from the Korean Empire era. It begins with the emperor's arrival at the Sajik altar and follows the ritual until his departure. Unlike modern reinterpretations, the focus here was on faithfully restoring the music and dances of the past rather than reinventing them. But Sajik Daeje also carries a painful history. During the Japanese occupation period, the ritual was abolished and its music and dances were lost. To mark the 1988 Seoul Olympics, the Sajik Daeje was revived after an 80-year absence, and the National Kugak Center presented it as a stage performance for the first time last year.
Reviving the Sajik Daeje is not only about restoring music and dance. It's about reclaiming our cultural identity and national pride, bringing it back in its full form, as it was performed in the Korean Empire, holds deep historical meaning.
Despite the history and essence, the Sajik Daeje is still less recognized by the public. The National Kugak Center hopes to have the ritual eventually inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List, just like the Jongmyo Daeje.
We are working with the goal of having the Sajik Daeje officially recognized as a cultural treasure.
and eventually as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage.
And so, more than a century after being silenced, the voices of the Sajik Daeje rise again, reminding us that heritage, once lost, can be reborn to inspire a new generation. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
There are many reasons to wait for Fridays, and one of them is definitely the arts and culture coverage by our dearest Gonu, who's here in the studio with us. Happy Friday, Gonu.
Happy Friday, Doan.
So, what do you have for us today?
So if you're interested in art, you'll probably like today's story. As Korea's art scene is buzzing with events this month, Korea's largest art fair, Kiaf Seoul, which is currently collaborating with Frieze Seoul, is taking place at the COEX through this weekend. On-site works from leading domestic and overseas galleries are on display, bringing in political figures, including the First Lady and Seoul's mayor, and also celebrities including members of BTS, 17 and Blackpink. But before I tell you more, follow me and I'll show you all around. Wall after wall is filled with creativity. Creative artwork from a jumbo sculpture made of 500,000 Korean pennies to a three-dimensional piece that makes you feel as if it's alive is exhibited. To make this happen, the 24th edition of Kiaf Seoul brought together more than 170 galleries, with a third of them from overseas. Newcomers also joined, reflecting growing interest in Seoul's art market.
Korea has a very interesting, a real openness to the rest of the world, culturally. Very excited, to see how we could present our artists and our creation to the local Korean landscape, and in Seoul already discussing with other artist curators to actually see how we could potentially work together.
This art fair showcasing thousands of pieces goes beyond viewing artwork. It also serves as a marketplace and a platform for networking. At the same time, the organizers are making efforts to encourage developing artists. Since 2023, Kiaf has been selecting 3 artists from 10 semifinalists, providing both funding and promotion. One of this year's semifinalists shared why his works drew global attention.
Because I use traditional Korean materials like bok and hanji, my monochrome work stood out among the more colorful pieces. With growing global interest in Korean culture, this sentiment seems to resonate.
Frieze Seoul, which is collaborating with Kiaf for a 4th year, also has a bunch to appeal to. One section that draws eyes is Focus Asia, which showcases artwork by emerging Asian artists and galleries.
I'm expecting to see just a greater focus on Asian artists. I started collecting Korean art a while ago, and I've been to Seoul 6 times. This might seem like a good opportunity to see a lot of different galleries at once from all over.
Among the highlights was Floating Rubble, which creates the illusion of rubble suspended in midair. And works by renowned masters, including Park So-bo, also appeared, some recreated digitally for a fresh experience. Media art installations, including one with the concept of being caught on fire, also drew interest. With record crowds flocking in on opening day, the twin art fairs are expected to attract even more through the weekend, making Seoul's art scene livelier than ever.
It looks really interesting, just seeing the 2 fairs collaborating for several years now. I can tell Seoul really seems to be positioning itself as an art hub. Tell us more.
Yes, so during my visit, I got to realize just how many visitors come from abroad just to the site, and not just to enjoy, but also to purchase these artwork at high prices, the highest being over $4 million so far, which shows how global attention is now centered on Seoul. So one expert explains what's behind all this trend.
These large-scale art fairs used to be centered in Hong Kong, but with that market shrinking, Seoul has emerged as an alternative, backed by the rising value of K-content and Korean culture.
But we also have to know that the art industry itself is facing challenges with the economy slowing. While the number of participating galleries at Kiaf slightly shrank this year, the organizers said they try to focus on quality instead. And an expert says that can be better in some ways.
If the fair is larger, it might dilute attention. Hence, the focus on quality helped top-tier works gain more recognition, turning crisis into an opportunity.
And with Kiaf and Frieze pledging to collaborate next year as well, he said more global partnerships can be expected beyond the Twin Fairs.
It's great to hear that. And this month, I hear there's a lot of exhibitions and art events taking place. Why is that?
So the Culture Ministry has designated this month as Art Festival Month. So there are tons of events you can enjoy in Korea at this time of year. So please check out more information on the official website, which is also provided in English, Japanese, and Chinese. And you can also see that on the screen right now. Other than the ones I mentioned, there are 7 biennales happening in cities across the country, including Gwangju and Cheongju. The ministry is even offering discount coupons for these fairs of up to 50%. So be sure to check ticketing platforms such as Noel Interpark and Melon Ticket.
All right, Konu, thanks for that report. We'll see you next week.
All right, thank you.
Unlike yesterday, when the daytime temperature in the center part was below 30 degrees Celsius, a heat wave of around 33 degrees appeared across the country today. Therefore, the heat wave warnings have been expanded and strengthened. Rain is expected across the country this weekend. Strong and heavy rain will be concentrated mainly in western areas. More than 100 millimeters of rain will fall in southern Gyeonggi-do, Chungcheongnam-do, and Jeollabuk-do provinces, and 80 millimeters in the southern parts of Gangwon-do and Chungcheongbuk-do, and up to 80 millimeters is forecast for Seoul. The morning will start at 25 degrees in Seoul and Busan, 22 degrees in Gyeongju. Highs will go up to 30 degrees in Seoul, 34 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju. Rain in the southern parts of the country will continue until early next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Do-yeon from all of us here at Arirang. Thanks for watching and good night.